welcome back to another segment of Looking for the Truth. And today, before I get ahead of myself, let me do this before I forget. All right, first of all, I want to get to is everything I say in this segment, it is my opinion and my opinion only. They will be sprinkles of facts, but doesn't mean that what I'm saying is facts. So if you do want to look at the facts, make sure you do the groundwork yourself and you go and search it and figure it out. Don't ever let some guy on YouTube or anything like that or any social media tell you something and you guys take it as it is. Always do your research. All right. So once again, this is my opinion. So let's get back to it and my 2 cents. Always. So let's get back to what we were talking about. And what we're talking about is the appointee that they have, I think, as director for the DEA, Derek Maltz. I believe that's his name. I'm going to kick off and see what this interview was. Now, by the way, this was also on December 16, 2023. So let's see what he said before.
At the DEA, Derek Maltz. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, Derek.
So this man at the time was a retiree. Now he's actually the appointee for the DEA. I guess the original one that he had so that people can vote for actually resigned a week before. I haven't really got into all the details of that. But I want to view what this man thinks, and I want to kind of, everything I read, I'm going to tell you guys my 2 cents. All right, so let's get back to it.
I want to get your thoughts. You've been studying and analyzing these, issues at the border, whether it's drugs, fentanyl. You're talking about marijuana now. What is the biggest issue facing our southern border?
Well, right now, the biggest issue is that the cartels have formed a relationship with the Chinese criminal networks, and they're operating with impunity at the southern border. There's an ongoing chemical arming campaign on our country right out of China. I've watched this for so many years when I was the head of the Special Operations Division, going back to 2008, 2009. We started seeing K2 spice, bath salts coming out of the labs in China. Then they went to fentanyl. Then they started sending fentanyl directly to America. They started sending fentanyl directly to Mexico.
Now I'm going to stop right here for a second because all that K2 bath salts and everything, believe it or not, the biggest majority of who was bringing it in was actually people that had advertised in Alibaba. And I know this for a fact because, that was probably after that, but it was that type of format. And it wasn't Alibaba exactly, but that's how it was moved in that type of situation. Maybe it was actually, now that I think about it. It was something else before it. Well, that's not even here or there, but I do remember a lot of smoke shops buying products off this, and they were getting it shipped in. And they really couldn't do anything because the molecules did not match according to the description of the product that was illegal. So it was kind of like a synthetic drug, and they called it spice. But my understanding, people were not buying it from Mexicans were bringing it through the border or anything of that kind. Now, fentanyl, maybe, I'm not sure about that. I don't hang out with cartel, so I don't know. And I don't do drugs, so I have no clue. So I'm kind of taking it by assault, but I do know that Mexico does not produce fentanyl, and I feel like it's more of a cop-out. I don't know if it's a fear tactic or not yet. I still haven't been educated enough to make a decision, but in my gut feeling, I feel like this is a cop-out, a scare tactic to reinforce the borders. And I'm going to tell you exactly why I think this, and this is going to be the catch at the end. So let's continue and keep going. So let's see here.
Over years, they started just, sending massive quantities of chemicals to make fentanyl to Mexico. But now they're making more powerful synthetic opioids like nitazene. And
so first of all, to do that, you will have to have a big high-grade lab. This is not something you can make in your basement. At least I don't believe it is. And if it is, they're probably going to be making meth before they start doing. It just doesn't add up, right? Okay, and if it does, I do understand if it's true you guys should be able to coordinate with the United States government and the Mexican government, put them together and come into an agreement where they can weed out those terrorists, because now they're terrorists. I agree with that too. So I agree with a lot of things. My worry is, and you know what, actually, I'm going to say that at the end. Let's just keep going. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Isonitazine. And they're also making xylazine, which is a horse tranquilizer that's causing necrosis, the rotting of human tissue. And Americans are dying all around.
Now that is like a big thing going on in Puerto Rico. I remember a big report about that they were like really addicted to that, what he just said, that horse tranquilizer that was rotting the people's skin. All right, let's keep going. So,
in the country, at record levels, the administrator of DEA recently put out a safety alert to the entire country on xylazine, because it's something we've never seen in the history of this country, and it's coming out of China.
What do you think the intent is behind this?
My personal opinion is, I can't prove it in court, is that the Chinese Communist Party are trying to destabilize.
I'm actually happy you say you can't prove it in court. So that's the thing. We have to run on facts. And there's people that we pay. When I say we, I say the taxpayer, that we pay so they can do their due diligence and try to find the truth where they can prove something. Because if we all go off the notion of what we think, and even though that's what I kind of do, but that doesn't mean I act. It's just how I feel and what I believe in that situation. But when you're in a position of power where you actually, if you exercise that type of power, like this man now that he is the director, I believe, or appointee or whatever you want to call it, exercise the power without not knowing the knowledge or the concrete evidence that it's actually true. And therefore, a lot of people that are just a belief can get their rights infringed. And by that, I mean, I could just have a neighbor, and that neighbor has a cousin that's in the cartel or something that I've never met, only one time at a party, but they got pictures of me with this person. And then therefore they're going to come, and there's a possibility that what they're zealous, they're going to just go and react instead of trying to do the due diligence and figure out, whoa, how is this guy involved? And not just that, at one point they're going to cross that line because they get pushed in pressure where they're going to forget that I actually have rights, and they're going to infringe them by trying to do their job because of the pressure that they're going to get pushed to. So that's what I'm afraid of. All right, let's keep going with the video.
And destroy America under the disguise of the drug addiction. They know America is very addicted to drugs. And now with the marijuana, because we're so soft on marijuana, and they're now setting up marijuana grow operations all over this country. We've seen record amounts of Chinese-run marijuana grow operations. There was a report at Maine recently. There was a leaked DHS memo. They identified 270 marijuana grow operations run by Chinese in Maine alone. We have them in Oklahoma, Colorado, Massachusetts.
All right, so actually I do know a little bit about this, and I think you got to realize there's organizations that go around the world, not just Hispanic gangs or anything like that. The Chinese government, to put them to, like, they have to have concrete evidence that this is actually it. Once again, I don't think he does. I don't think they do. And I believe it was the triad, I believe, in Maine, that because we got to realize a lot of these stuff, they get shipped in and out. And that's another thing where if you're going to protect your borders, don't forget the west and the east borders. Those ports bring a lot of immigrants from Europe and Asia, and also the Canadian borders. But let's not get there. Let's talk about that. There's no proof that it's a government agency or a government that's from China that's actually doing this. And if they're doing this, and if, let's just say, they're doing it the state legal wise, and I think I'm not sure if you meant illegally or state with the state compliance, but if they are doing with the state compliance, well, that ends up being where they're supposed to be a better regulation. And that's one topic I'm actually going to get on right after this too. So this is going to be a little long one. Stick with me, guys. I'm sorry about that. But I got a lot of points I got to make with this, and I hope you guys can bear it out.
It's Oregon, California. They're all over the place. There's probably 1,000 or more. But you got to remember now, we have record amounts of Chinese nationals, mostly military-age men, coming across the border being apprehended illegally. They're setting up operations in our country. And by the way, they're doing all the money laundering pickups for the cartels. They're picking up millions of dollars all over the country. They're laundering the money back for the cartels to get paid. The leaders are getting paid faster and more efficiently than they've ever been paid. And the chemicals are coming like we've never seen.
I think the majority of the viewers might think, oh, marijuana, so what? Big.
Well, hold on, before I get to this. So he's talking about they're getting paid. Well, then follow the money. Why don't you just follow the money? Go trace the money, follow the money where it ends up. You guys have been doing it for years. I know it's doable. Now that the president has declared that cartel members are terrorists, and even though they always were terrorists, same thing with gang members and everything like that. But follow the money. Do your due diligence. Check if it's true. First, get evidence. And this is the problem. You're spitting all these things that you have no idea. It's a great idea. It's a horrible execution. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So let's keep going.
Big deal.
So marijuana is not the marijuana from the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. This is higher pure THC marijuana. I've talked to doctors about this. It's actually causing psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety. So it's really a gateway drug.
So there is actually now the gateway drug he was going to get there right now. I don't agree with, but there is a possibility that people can abuse something and they could be underlying problems that they already had, and they will unravel in a higher rate. And schizophrenia is actually one of them. I know a friend of mine is actually, we always thought it was just because he had some bad things. No, he was already schizophrenic. The problem was he was trying to self-medicate with cannabis, and the swings of the motion was so much where he became so reliable on cannabis for dopamines that his schizophrenia kind of just ended up taking over. It doesn't mean, and there's actually no proof that I've seen that indicate that is actually a problem, but it does unravel underlying illnesses that you have that you already had. So that is true, and half of it is true. And it actually, now that the highest percentage, that really doesn't affect much other than stimulating your dopamines and also kind of your receptors to kind of give that ease. So in other words, what you had to smoke a full bowl before will be like a one hit from a hitter now. And that is a slippery slope, because it's like, I'm going to compare it to liquor actually. So if you have someone that drinks shots and there's 12 ounces of hard liquor and then you got 12 ounces of beer. So that person who drinks the beer is used to that type of potency of alcohol. So and then when that same person tries to drink 12 ounces of hard liquor, the potency is different. So that's where the management and control comes. And like I said, anyone can be addicted to anything, and it can be horribly bad for you. It could be sugar, it could be chocolate, it could be coffee. You could even drink so much water and actually poison yourself. So to say that, it's kind of, but we have, well, let me keep going before I start getting rambling mode.
For these kids that don't know any better, that are depressed, that are post-COVID, the mental illness, the depression and anxiety is off the charts in America. So these kids are turning to drugs for help. So they start out with a little marijuana, then they take.
Well, now I think that study or whatever he's saying, that's ridiculous, because the number one problem why there's more anxiety, and this is a true fact, is because we have been bombarded with information, and our brain stimulus cannot control all that data coming in, so it short circuits and only gets pieces that it believes that is vital. We never stop the noise. Think about this. There's always something to worry about. There's always something. You pick up your phone, you see. There's always now a camera on us where we have to keep the spotlight in the image. Not everyone, but a lot of people that get curved into society go through this, and that creates anxiety. So being on the phone, social media, never reacting or interacting with people in a, solid base, what we used to do in the 90s, 80s, when I was a kid, to go out and play. So these kids, they live in a world where they get bombarded with a lot of type of information, but nowhere to excel or disperse that energy, because they don't go outside no more. They just stay in front of a screen. They watch this, they do that. And I'm not saying that's the majority, but that type creates that anxiety, especially for older people. Now that before, you really didn't hear bad news unless you picked up a newspaper or you looked at the news. Now you get about 16 different messages a day on Facebook about how horrible this is or that, or because this, and, so that plays a big role. I think that's across the board, even the people who do not smoke cannabis. So let's keep going.
What they think is Oxy or Xanax or Percocet turns out to be fake pills from Mexico, and they're dying. And then the parents wonder.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, they can actually die even if they're not fake pills, and that's actually a controlled substance that's actually based on an opium. So, yeah, or some Oxy is, but that's what I'm trying to say. Or not opium. I might be wrong with that one, actually. I'm not quite sure. I'll state that right now. But what I am saying is, so he's stating it's a gateway drug. Well, if it becomes available and regulated, you're not going to be able to go to a dealer that's selling other drugs, the fake pills, that are going to kill you, right? So you eliminate that by, and they did that because it was the same thing in the Prohibition era where people were drinking tub gin and they were getting sick, puked up, going blind, dying. And it was just because it was fake liquor. It was made in a tub. They put antifreeze, they put stuff. It wasn't regulated. So what the government did is they made sure that didn't happen again by making it legal, and they actually solved a big problem. And now it's regulated. They know what people are going to digest, and they know what's going on. So that actually proves the point where they should declassify it or reclassify it. And, well, let's keep going.
How did my kid die? I never even heard of fentanyl. So,
well, that's another thing, too. There's signs. There's always signs. So if you're not paying attention to your kid, that's on you. As a parent, you should be. And I'm a new parent myself, and I hope that I will be there. And don't get me wrong, I understand kids do stuff behind parents' back all the time. I've done it myself. I'm pretty sure you guys done it yourself too. But there's signs. And not just that, if you teach them with the right morals and everything, you should have the confidence in your teaching that they will lead them to do right things. So that's why it's so important to not just teach them, but show them in the way you act and in your morals. And that's very important how your kid will end up. It's not that they are doing this behind your back because there's some type of, sneakiness or whatever, and they're targeting your kids. Well, if they are, you should have already built the moral compass of your kids to know better. All right.
Now we're dealing with the worst crisis we've ever had. But the sad part is our president has said that international drug trafficking is a national security issue. So the question is, why then is he opening the border and allowing the cartels to operate with impunity? They're also running the largest human sex trafficking operation in the history of the country. They're running mass amounts of people across the border. They get paid thousands and thousands of dollars. They're running high-value targets. We have 1.8 million gotaways. We've never seen this in the history of America, but yet the public is not getting the details.
Derek, you're with an organization called Border 911. Tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing, what you guys are seeing, specifically when it comes to the issue of this flow of illegal immigrants coming not just from Central and South America, but around the world.
So I'm very fortunate. I was asked to be part of Border 911. Tom Holman, former ICE director, is the CEO. Mark Morgan, former CBP commissioner, is on the board. Rodney Scott, the former chief of Border Patrol, is on the team. Sarah Carter from Fox News, Jason Jones from Newsmax, Victor Abelar, a former ICE agent who was ambushed with his partner, Jaime Zapata in Mexico. So there's the team. But these guys helped President Trump write a...
You know, there's only like 2 people I believe fit to be in that team, and none of them should be a reporter, in my opinion, because a lot of these reporters today are so biased that they just want people to listen to their agenda. And they get paid for it. They sell themselves for it. And here we go.
policies to create the safest border in our lifetime. So now we're seeing historic amounts of illegals coming into the country. They've been invited in. They know they're getting freebies. They're having babies. They're getting cell phones. They're getting, Visa, prepaid cards.
Man, dude, this has actually been happening for a long, long time. And I feel like just because it's now the Hispanic era that's doing it, it's becoming an issue. I do believe that it's outrageous and how much help that they're getting and everything, while there is Americans out there struggling and homeless. And they should take care of the American people first. But in another way, that's what makes this country great, is because we defend the weak. And I believe sometimes they get overzealous with it, and I believe that it's wrong. I don't believe they should have free whatever, this and that. But, dude, there's been a lot of nations that send people in here and that deserve to be here, and some don't. But that's the whole point of vexing everybody. That's someone's job that they're dropping the ball, and you guys want an excuse because someone incompetent can't do their job, and you guys are creating this fear so you guys can control an agenda. I'm not down for that, man. But he does raise good points. But there's just, like, once again, it's that the idea and the, what's the word I'm looking, the execution is not to par.
Coming into whatever city they want, and they have the medical paid for, their schooling's paid for. It's absurd. We have massive American homeless all over the country. Many are homeless vets that are sleeping on the streets in our cities. And when I take care of them, the migrants...
Now, that is a very true fact that he said, and I agree with him 100%. But there's also underlanes in that, too. And that is, a lot of the vets there are minorities, have been in situations in their life where they were not properly introduced back in the world. And I believe that they have become a part of a system that creates a rotunda into the system. It's just, you come on, you go to prison. They catch you with something instead of giving you help, instead of having the VA putting you through rehab, or having you guys work and actually do a job corps kind of thing. No, they just put them away and put them in prison, and they believe just because they do time, they're not going to come out and repeat it over and over. Especially, I know people that get locked up just to stay warm in the winter, and in reality, they need a lot of help. So it's a very touchy situation. There's more to it than what he's just saying. So let's keep going.
The illegal migrants are getting taken care of better than our homeless in our country. One thing I want to say, which I'm learning from my teammates here, that 90% of these asylum claims are fraudulent. So they come to America under this fraudulent...
Now, that is true in certain spots. Like, I believe there's a big, massive movement from Middle East and India, also from Eastern European, and then, like, some of them really, really cannot go back to the country. Like, their family had to leave because they came to the United States, and they are really, like, even though they have done nothing other than just try to live life to the fullest, just because of their thoughts weren't aligning. And that's what I'm afraid that this country might end up going to. I hope not, and I'm counting on this president not to do that. But yeah, so he's right. A lot. I don't know about 90%. I want to say maybe about 50% are fraud. But once again, that's someone's job to vex people correctly. And to say that, and I understand that's cost of money, but then again, there's going to be people in that crowd that are going to be essential to American life. So we'll get that into another video. We have time, or we might get into today. I don't want to make this video so long. It's been on for like 25 minutes. So
claim of asylum, they never show up for the hearing. The hearings now are backed up 3, 4, 5 years.
that's true.
And that's another thing that's very sad. The public doesn't know that. Order 911, we're trying to educate the public on the facts. This is not a red or a blue issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue. Every American needs to care about what's going on the border, because without border security, we'll have no country. We have now migrants from over 175, 180 countries coming into this country. This is not just poor people from Central America and Mexico. And by the way, I have a big heart for these poor people. My heart goes out for them with their families. But because you're poor and you want a better life does not entitle you to get here on an asylum claim, okay? That's not good enough. So you have to wait in line, okay? America's a great country, but right now it's being destroyed by unknowns all over our country. So every American has to be aware.
That is true. In a way, I believe what he's saying is true in his belief. I also believe that it's not just the unknown, it's what they're using to divide us. I think that there's certain things that they can do. Once again, someone is dropping the ball and they're trying to use it as a scapegoat, and they're trying to manipulate the situation. But both do that. Republicans and Democrats do that. And I think it's horrible because they're more concerned on their agenda than actually the safety of whatever they're doing. And I'm going to get to the idea, and this is just a notion that I'm thinking why this is a big problem and what their solution is going to come up. Remember, this was in 2023.
That.
For so many years, it's been out of sight, out of mind. But now you have a few outlets like us and Fox News and maybe a few more that are shining that light. They're getting drone footage. They're seeing this. But one thing that a lot of people still might not understand is the amount of people coming from the Middle East, China, and other countries across the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean.
Right, great point. And you're right. The videos on social media are the best way to learn, because you're not going to get this on mainstream media. So anybody that has any doubt, just go watch some of the social media videos that are being filmed every day. But let's just look at China.
That's actually dangerous today because IA can make anything look real. So that's another step that we can jump into on the whole different. That's a whole different segment. But and I like that he pointed that out. And there's more. Like in Chicago, the majority immigrant illegal aliens here, I believe, are Polish people more than Mexican. You know, whatever. In California, it might be Mexicans, and like in Miami, it might be Colombians, or it might be Dominicans, or it depends what area you're in. And yeah, immigrants are not just Hispanics. I'm actually happy he pointed that out, that it's all about all around the world. And I hope he talks about, because I haven't seen the whole thing, I hope he also talks about if that the northern border needs to be protected too. Let's just keep going before.
China, for an example. In 2021, there were 342 Chinese nationals apprehended illegally by Border Patrol on the southern border. In 23, there was 24,125. That's over a 7,000 or 7,000% increase. There's thousands already been apprehended in October of this year. So there's people from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Russia, from everywhere in Africa, from Yemen. We have no idea who's coming into this country. That's the sad part. There's so many unknowns. And let's not even talk about the northern border. Remember, the 19 hijackers that came in and took down those towers and hit the Pentagon and crashed in Pennsylvania, they came over the northern border. So we don't have resources on the northern border. And another thing I want to tell you, and I talk to law enforcement every day of the week.
Actually, I'm so happy he said about that northern border, and that's a great point that he did, because literally there's a little shack with a phone, and that's it, and it's a little arm. You can walk right past it. No, but you can go around it. You can park and just walk across the other side where there's nothing. You might go a little bit through some brush. There's nothing at all. They're spending millions and trillions of dollars on one side of the border and leaving the other side of the country wide open, willy-nilly. That's the problem. And I'm happy he said that. And I hope that he actually addresses that now that he's actually in office. So kudos to you on that one, brother.
Morale couldn't be any lower. And retirements are skyrocketing.
That's true.
We're losing quality people in government.
That's because some people don't have the stomach to do unmoral things.
Like Border Patrol didn't sign up.
At least people that I talk to.
Babysitting and administrative paperwork all day. They signed up to go on the front lines and protect America. They can't do that because they're getting overloaded by the illegal migrants.
What does low morale translate into?
No security. You can't do the job. Right now, law enforcement is losing resources at record levels. They're losing the tools to go after the bad guys at record levels. All these big tech companies, they're now encrypting all their communications, which means law enforcement is in the dark. If law enforcement's in the dark and they don't have anybody left to investigate, guess what that means for every American? We're all at risk. Our kids, our grandkids, our nephews, our nieces, the future generation. And by the way, on that note, did you know that the military is losing record amounts of young men and women from fentanyl poisoning? Did you know that? Because it's really underreported.
So it's no longer military aged, it's military.
Military members are dying in our own military because they're using fentanyl, because the morale in the military is at rock bottom as well. They're learning about diversity.
No. Well, it's because there's something wrong there. Like I said, that's another issue. I'm not even going to touch that one. This one.
Instead of going after the targets that are looking to destroy our country forever.
Derek Maltz, thank you so much.
Thank you very
much. All right, man. So like I was saying, all right, let me get to the point why this whole thing is, this is my theory, my conspiracy theory, I guess you could say. All right, so check this out. They're going to try to kick all the immigrants out, right? And they are trying, and when I mean every immigrant, I mean every working immigrant. And they're trying to eliminate where people are born here to have rights, because they're trying to set up something called that, well, they are changing instead of the external revenue service, instead of the income revenue service. So just like in Dubai and everything else, so they're going to want to be able to control all the borders. This is my thoughts, and this is why I think with what they're doing and proceeding to do so. So when they do start manufacturing here in the United States, because it probably will happen. I don't know if you guys ever noticed, Donald Trump's wife and daughter got a bunch of patents and stuff like that from China when he was in his presidency. So those kind of patents are the ones that we're going to start industrializing here in the United States, and how we're going to lower the cost on that. So guess what? You ever heard of outsourcing? Well, they're going to do something called insourcing. Yes, this is what actually Dubai does. They actually get people, foreign workers, to come in and they do the labor. And what they do, they get paid a fraction of a cost. And they do have to pay a certain type of income because they are external, not internal. So it's crazy. This is going to actually divide our poverty line farther and farther. The rich is always going to stay super rich, and then the poor is going to be poor. They're going to be poor because they're not going to be able to compete, or they're going to have to work at the same wages, or they're not going to get a job. Why are they going to pay you the minimum wage when they can go and bring some person from some other country and come here and give them housing and food, and that's about it? And they have to work in contract to 3, 6, 9, 10 months, 12 months, and then they can go and then come back. There's going to be a couple problems with that. You know, they're not going to need all the expenses. You know, they're not going to be going out. They're going to sacrifice modern day slavery, if you look at it, right? And they can leave at any time, but if they break contract, I don't know the details or anything, but the person is getting paid, let's say $6 an hour. The minimum wage is $12 an hour, but the minimum wage is only for citizens, Americans. And then they're not going to be working. So what's going to happen with them? That's where I'm trying to get at. That's where I feel like this is going to. This is why they're trying to build these walls in this border. They want to try to regulate whoever comes here in this country so they can exploit them. Now, I do believe they should take out criminals, right? And just for them coming and trying to find a better life, even the pursuit of happiness is part of our Constitution. So therefore, that's all they're trying to do. They're trying, they're actually telling us that we keep the American dream. All right, guys. So let's get back to it. Sorry about all that. So yeah, so pretty much my conclusion is that they're gonna start insourcing. So that's one thing that I want to look forward and have guard. Another thing is we need to start talking about amnesty, and I'm serious about this because you guys keep bringing that fear that you're gonna separate families. Like dude literally said, well, they can go with them, you know, like separating whatever. Okay, so people here that that been here and they're actually vital to the economy because they boost the economy with their spending. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of immigrants that come here, they stack up and they send back home. And that's what outsourcing is actually going to be a big part of what they're going to do. It's going to keep less circulation in our economy unless we have a attraction show for people to come all over the world, like in Dubai. But our country's too big where that's not going to work. So that's another factor they need to kind of consider. But like I was saying, there are people, there are immigrants that all they want to do is look for a better life. And these people work, pay their taxes, never get a tax return, stay under the radar. And those are the people that never got any kind of crime and been here for over 10 years. I suggest, Mr. President, I believe it's time to vex these people and give them amnesty. I think if they're vital to the economy and they're boosting and actually out there and producing for us, and then we should keep them. Now, those that have done a crime and then committed a crime and they have reformed themselves, but I believe everyone that I've ever met that was actually sentenced and that was illegal have been deported. So that notion's always already been in play. So now that I already said, is going to continue to be in play. It's just people need to do their job and figure out who's who, but at the same time do their job without breaking any rules or infringing anyone's rights. All right. That's my 2 cents. And until next time, I know I went a little farther than last time, but hopefully if you guys like it, subscribe, leave a comment. All right, guys, till next time.